Alrighty, all of you automotive enthusiasts who like car stories, trivia, and other silliness, you can only blame yourself for hitting the play button on yet another
Gabby episode of V8 Radio, Kevin.
Gabby, all right.
That's right, man.
I know her. She's not a guest.
No, unfortunately not.
Yeah. I'm your host, Kevin Ostie, joined as always by our esteemed co-host, Mr. Mike Huball Clark. And this is the V8 Radio podcast. And there's several people out there who've listened to more than one episode. But for those who have not and don't know the routine of the show, in the beginning, we always have some sort of automotive trivia question in which we reserve the answer until the end. So we ask the question at the beginning and kind of trick our listeners into hanging out the whole show to hear the answer. So, Mr. Q, have you prepared a trivia question? You told me you had like an 8-part question this
Yeah,
week?
well, this has the potential to be a 4-part question, Kevin.
Wow.
It's going to be 2 parts for the win, 4 parts for the bonus. And here we go.
Oh, man.
Yeah, well, it'll be fun. All right, so Kevin, which major auto manufacturer produces the most cars per day, and which one produces the least cars per day? And for the bonus, what are those numbers?
Oh, wow. Well, to digress just a bit, I did mistakenly say before that the Silverado had surpassed the F-150 in our last episode, which it did not. And it was
Frank made sure to let you know that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Frank.
Yes. Our longtime listener, Mr. Frank Simkowski. And I must have heard like some kind of regional monthly sales quota or something that
I see.
because I swear I heard it overtook it in some capacity, but it wasn't for the annual production. But you're speaking of major automotive manufacturers, so
correct. Not your boutique manufacturers, but a real deal auto manufacturer.
And is this all right? So part A is who, and part B is how many per day.
Correct, per day.
And is this average for the year, or
We'll call it average, yes, for the year.
or on their top day where everything goes right? And
We'll say average.
because I don't think any manufacturer produces cars every day of the year.
Kevin?
Well, I'm just saying because they got plant maintenance and everything else. So if you're going to look at the average, it could throw it off.
Average over the year,
Okay.
based on total units produced, if you amortize that over a day's time,
Okay.
what would be the most, what would be the least?
So I'm going to say that it's Toyota is my first guess for the manufacturer. And I'm going to say that so I guess we're speaking to the overall production
Yes,
of that brand.
correct.
I'm thinking it's a couple million a year at this point for Toyota. Is my guess. I think they do like 500,000 or 600,000 Camrys and alone.
So per day is what we're looking for.
Right. So that was per year. So we're considering all the plants.
Yes.
All right. Well, whatever, 1.5 million divided by 365, I guess, is my answer. Please stand by. We'll just call it. We'll call it 2 million even.
Per day?
No, for the year. I'm doing the math.
Oh,
Hold on.
okay.
Yeah. 365 days. That makes it 5,400 cars a day
Okay.
across all the plants globally, all the different lines. So it's not just Camrys. It's
Correct.
Highlanders and
Yes.
Sequoias and whatever else.
Tundras.
Tundras.
Tacomas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So Kevin says Toyota for the most and 5,400 per day. All right. Now, what do you think about the least?
I need to know where we draw the line at major.
Okay.
So we got Ford. I'm just going to say GM, because you're not breaking it out by brand. You're breaking it out by parent company.
I'm breaking it out by. Gosh, we're getting a little muddled here.
I know, because is it Cadillac plus Chevrolet plus GMC, or is it Cadillac? Do they stand on their own?
Let's call it recognizable vehicle brand, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that just cleared everything up.
Well, you don't see a GM whatever, except for a GMC truck, but you don't see it's not like a GM Corvette or whatever the parent company of Daimler Chrysler is.
So it's the individual mark,
yes,
if you will.
Thank you.
MARQUE, right?
Yes, marquee.
Okay. So I got to think who's even in existence anymore today. In the GM family, you've got Chevrolet, GMC truck, Cadillac. Is the...
It doesn't have to be. I'll give you a hint. It doesn't have to be a U.S. manufacturer.
No, I'm aware of that. I'm just trying to get my head together on this thing because they've killed so many different brands. If you go, I did this the other day. If you go to, say, the Cadillac website and you click on vehicles, it starts to show you other GM brands on the same page.
Really?
Because there's just not that many any marks anymore. You've only got a handful of GM brands, so they're just, I think Chevrolet's website does the same thing. So the least, you got Buick over there too. So I think I'm trying to narrow down by parent company what's the least of each, and I'm going to say Cadillac is the least of General Motors. So on the Ford side, you basically have Ford and Lincoln. I don't think I'm missing anything there, right? Mercury's long gone.
Mercury anymore.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, do they sell more Cadillacs than Lincolns? They're probably neck and neck. So let's go over to the Fiat group, right? Which is Chrysler. Fiat. Is Peugeot part of that?
Maybe.
Yeah. European car production, I really don't know. I know that it's Mercedes-Benz sells a decent amount of cars, mostly here in the U.S. BMW, Mini, we're just looking at the whole variety of automakers. So
do your process, man. Go through your process.
Who sells the least? I mean, Nissan's still out there, but they're a mass, brand. Subaru, Hyundai, Kia, over in the Koreas. Are we considering like Bentley and Rolls-Royce as major? Are they boutique?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow. Then we're going to go to, Aston Martin.
Sure.
And Jaguar.
We'll include Aston Martin and Jaguar.
Oh, wow. But Ferrari is definitely boutique.
Is it?
Well, what the hell's not? If Ferrari is not a boutique
manufacturer. They've been around
manufacturer.
quite a while. Wouldn't you consider them a big player?
Well, that's what my initial question was. Where do we draw the line at major?
We'll draw it at Koenigsegg. How about that?
Oh, man.
Or Zonda.
Zonda.
Those exotics, super exotics.
Yeah, a Spiker. So those are like in the double digit per year, right? Like Koenigsegg maybe makes 25 cars a year, 20, something like that.
I'm not counting that.
So that's your boutique threshold. It's like less than 100.
Yes.
All right. Well, then I don't really know. I mean, there's just so many of them in there.
Yeah,
there's a lot of those.
I didn't realize this was going to turn into such a dirtbag question. I apologize.
Yeah, it's a tough one, because by this scale, Tesla's definitely up with the top ones then, because they're doing
Yeah, they're
hundreds
putting
of
out
thousands
product.
of cars,
Yeah.
but something that's I don't even know, and it was made clear to me when we went to Saudi for the Global Automotive Salon that there are all kinds of super and hypercar brands out there that I'm just not familiar with.
Right.
So
Well, neither am I, so they're not part of this question. Okay? I hope that narrows it down a bit.
yeah, okay. Well, do I know what you don't know? Or the other way around. Man. I'm just going to say it's, well, Rolls Royce. I don't know where they're at today for production. I know geez. This is a tough one, man.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm
For
sorry.
somebody who's
I apologize.
It's okay.
No, and nobody
not,
fed me this question either. This was all on my own, so blame me.
Wow. Okay. Just for fun, I'm going to say Rolls Royce, and then the bonus of what the number is for the least of this mystery
Mystery brand.
mystery boutique threshold number.
Yeah.
I think they're probably doing 10,000 a year or something like that.
10,000 a year divided by 365.
Yeah. So they're doing a couple cars a day. Let's see. We'll do the math. 30, 20, 27, 28 cars a day.
28 cars a day. All right.
I don't know that they make Rolls Royces that fast.
Well, they are pretty much hand built.
Right.
Yeah.
But they have a bunch of hands building them, I guess,
Okay.
to be able to hit that
Sure.
number. I mean, Porsche, you just pick a country. There's all kinds of different smaller.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just going to get this over with and, and say Rolls Royce. And my apologies
Okay.
to everybody listening who's banging their heads against the wall saying, would this guy just shut up and move on?
All right. So duly noted. So for most cars, you say Toyota, and the bonus is 5,400 per day, and the least is Rolls-Royce at 28 cars per day. We got.
Boy, that
got
sounds
it
like
down.
a educated guess there, but definitely not.
Well,
All right.
I enjoy the process you go through. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's riveting.
All right. Now, my turn.
Yes, I will give you a choose-your-own-adventure here after that
nice.
experience.
Yeah. Thank you.
I have 3 different questions on deck, and we'll just call them numbers 1, 2, or 3, and I'll just let you throw the dart, and you pick a number, and that's going to be your question.
Okay. We'll go number 1.
Number 1.
Yep.
Okay.
Door number 1, Monty.
Yes. Behind door number 1,
A new
we
car.
have, yeah, it is a new car for 1963.
All right.
In 1963, Chrysler announced that they would be offering a brand new warranty on Imperial powertrain components. And this warranty is the first of its kind in the luxury class. So my question to you is, what was special about the warranty? First of its kind in the luxury class.
First of its kind. What was special about the warranty?
Yes.
Okay. I will say that. I mean, this. Oh gosh, this is a you know it or you don't kind of a question.
1963 Imperial.
1963 Imperial. What was special about the powertrain warranty offered?
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. 1963 Chrysler Imperial.
Mm-hmm. The year that President Kennedy met his untimely demise.
Yes, yes, it is.
You can't really, you got to be careful. The next time you find yourself surrounded by Imperial enthusiasts, make sure you don't call it a Chrysler Imperial.
Why?
In those days, Imperial was its own line.
Really?
Yes. It was Chrysler parent company, but the Imperial
Right.
stood alone.
I was not aware of that. That was that would have been a good trivia question there somewhere. Boy. Okay, what was special about the Imperial powertrain warranty? I will.
And I'm not asking how many warranties they wrote per day.
Sure. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Jag off. Oh man. All right. I will say it was the first time that was offered a 5-year, 50,000-mile warranty on the powertrain.
First time for a 5-year, 50,000-mile. All right. You sure?
No, I'm absolutely not sure. But that's what we're going with.
Just because I wrote it down doesn't mean, it's got to be.
Yeah, well, it pretty much is. Any other question would be any other answer would be a complete wag, as this one was. So this is what I'm going with.
Okay, you sure 224? If that was it, or maybe it was. I don't know. You've made your answer. I'm just going to stay with that.
It is.
Okay. All right. Well, we shall see.
Yes, sir. We'll find out at the end of the show.
Right. It's been duly noted.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, glad we got that out of the way, kids.
And thanks for listening to V8 Radio. Good night, everybody.
Yeah, if there was a heat map, showing people's, attention spans on this particular episode, I think we lost them in about the first minute and a half.
Yeah,
so
sorry about that.
We might be able to rerun that last trivia question next time because people might not have tuned out.
Yeah, no kidding. Good heavens, that was bad. Anyway.
Well, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
So there's a lot happening right now as we lay this one down. First of all, it's cold.
It is cold.
Yeah, here in the Midwest. I'm fortunate that I have heat in the garage, but it's chilly. I think by me it's 8 degrees outside, something like that.
Yeah, I'm about the same.
Yeah, and I know, believe me, it gets colder in other places, but it's still cold. But there seems to have been a bunch of interesting news going around in the automotive industry in the past couple of weeks that is worth kind of chatting about. One of them, you undoubtedly have seen that the Edelbrock company is moving their headquarters to the Memphis area, actually, going to Mississippi.
Yes. Yeah, they were in Torrance for 83 years.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it was the original headquarters. And it moved. But they're part of the Comp Cams group, whatever parent company owns all that, right?
Right. So the Edelbrock is still its own company, and Comp is still its own company, but they now have I guess for the past year or so, they have a parent company that owns both of them. Mm-hmm. And they are able to pool some resources together, and it only made sense to move the headquarters closer to the Comp Cams headquarters. Chris Douglas is the I forgot his title at Edelbrock. He used to be with the Comp Performance Group, and he's a guy I've known for many, many years. But he pointed out in an article that Edelbrock had like 7 different campuses.
Wow.
Yes, scattered throughout Southern California and further into the desert. And they thought, let's look at all this stuff and see what we can combine to, just save some costs and resources and everything else. And then with the increasingly unfriendly tax structure in Southern California,
right?
They said, let's get out of Dodge. So I think it's a great move for them. It's a bummer that they're stepping out of the home of hot rod culture, which is Southern Cal.
Sure.
But I think with the connectivity everybody enjoys today, that's not going to be a huge factor. I know that one of the goals is to get Edelbrock parts back into hardcore racing more and more.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of veered off course over the years, making good parts for the street markets and all that, but fewer and fewer, circle track and, dirt racers were relying on Edelbrock speed parts, and that's their heritage, So Chris Douglas is he's a racer himself and understands the importance of the development from racing programs trickling back down into the street market. And, Edelbrock has been around in the drag racing world as well. They still have their Pat Musey line of cylinder heads and,
right.
A few other names. So it's all good stuff. But so I think it's going to be a good thing. But what really annoyed me was the clickbait headlines.
Oh, right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the first headline I saw said, like, Edelbrock to close headquarters, and it really didn't give you anything else after that.
Yeah, that was it. Edelbrock closing.
Yeah.
Shuts down operations.
Torrance headquarters.
Yeah.
Fate of workers unknown.
Right. And immediately, I think this backfired on a couple of media outlets that wrote these type of stories, because I know what they're going for. They were going for the clickbait. They want people to read that headline and click on it to go to their website, which increases traffic, which increases ad revenue.
Right.
But I don't think anybody actually clicked on it. I think they read the headline and then they commented right away saying, "Oh man, next thing you know, all their parts are going to be made in China, and it sucks they're going out of business and all the rest." So nobody bothered to read the article, and they just fed
the machine.
Yes, this disinformation machine throughout all of the following posts. And I'm like, no, guys. And it's the same people that are complaining about, the People's Republic of California.
Right.
And how it's not a good place to be for business. And they're cheering everybody else on for moving out and leaving it. And then Edelbrock makes this decision. And because of the way it's presented, it's a bad thing.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that journalism does that, and just the only thing they care about is the clickbait, and not necessarily the accuracy of the story.
Yeah.
So that's really bothersome.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. So by now, everybody, there's enough resources out there to read the actual story and clear the air. And I know it was like a couple of days after that announcement was made that one of the machining centers in Mississippi was showing pictures of Edelbrock cylinder heads that were getting machined already.
Oh, wow.
So they it's happening,
Sure.
right now. And, undoubtedly there's going to be some downsides of employees that aren't going to be able to relocate. They offered the employees a relocation option and package.
Right.
But that's kind of a hard thing to do if you've got family and everything else.
Right. You have young kids that you don't want to uproot. That can be really difficult.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, that's a bummer, but hopefully those people will be able to find better jobs. That'd be the great thing if they could take that experience and increase their standard of living somehow. Mm-hmm. But anyway, at the end of the day, I don't think Edelbrock parts are going anywhere, and I'm pretty excited to see what they come out with. They're going to have some new stuff, and like I said, they're going to get closer to racing and kind of back to their roots. So that'll be cool.
Yeah, that will be cool. Now they're still operating all their foundries that they currently operate now, right?
Yes. Yeah, they're keeping the foundries in California, which is kind of an interesting thing because a foundry it's a pretty. At first thought, you would think it's a pretty unfriendly thing to the environment.
You would think, sure.
Lots of heat, melting aluminum, lots of danger.
Yeah.
But it's not like those those pictures and those videos we see of people in, undeveloped countries, where it's a guy with a long stick, and he's in a t-shirt in this dark, room with this molten, metal and this giant
Getting hammered,
crucible.
and sparks flying everywhere, and
Yeah,
people getting burned and all that.
it's not that. No, it's much nicer.
Yeah, I'm sure they do keep their standards up, and they have a lot of state-of-the-art equipment, and take strides into preventing a lot of those harmful emissions from getting out. I'm sure they have like smokestack scrubbers that would help reduce any kind of pollutants that get released.
Yeah, and I've not been to the foundry. I've been to basically all the rest of the Edelbrock facilities over the years, and it was pretty interesting because Vic Edelbrock used to go to his office in Torrance, and then he would go to the Torrance airport and jump in a little plane and fly over to the foundry, which was based kind of near Riverside, and keep tabs on stuff, and then fly back and
That's cool.
Commute, just hop over all the traffic and all the.
It's the only way to travel, man. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So he definitely had his thumb on the pulse. But it'll be neat to see what they come up with. So that was kind of big news. Some similar news that is kind of flying under the radar right now, but had the potential of going down that exact same path, is the sale of Detroit Speed.
Really?
Yes.
I did not hear about that at all.
Did not even hear about that.
No, sir.
Happened about the same time. And take a guess on who bought Detroit Speed.
CompCams Group?
No, sir.
No. Global West?
No. It was not really a direct competitor. I'll spare you the
Okay.
900 guesses, but it's been purchased by Holley.
Is that right?
Yes, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Right, and Holley is another company that is. It has a parent investing company, but Holley's been able to, it seems like they come out with new products like daily. I'm on the press release list that they send out, and it's like my email box is jammed with new Holley part releases, and they're always not big systems or a new fuel injection system or whatever, but sometimes it's just a couple of brackets to put something on an LS motor or whatever. But Holley is headed up by Tom Tomlinson, the CEO, who's a full-on diehard car guy, and he's also a pro touring car guy.
Oh, cool. So Detroit Speed's right up his alley.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So it seems like it was a purchase in the right direction contextually, because the guys at Holley and Tomlinson in particular understand what Detroit Speed products are and how they're made and everything else. And Kyle Tucker, who started Detroit Speed, former GM engineer and racer. In fact, he went to college with Mark Stilo.
Right.
Engineering school together. And so all those guys are kind of connected, including Tomlinson. So I wouldn't have expected it, but I understand reading into this that the chatter has been going on for about 6 months as they tried to figure out what the deal was.
Okay.
And I don't know any of the specifics of the I'm going to just say the buyout. I don't know what if it truly was a buyout or if it was some kind of other, business arrangement. I don't know what it was, but the news is that, Detroit Speed was purchased by the Holley Group, and Kyle Tucker is going to remain on staff. He's going to show up at DSC every day and do what he does. Detroit Speed also has a differential company that is part of that sale as well, Gear Effects, which is a NASCAR level gear shop that, Detroit Speed one of their signature products is the Quadrelink rear end, or rear suspension system, and their deep tub kits, for Camaros and Firebirds and
Sure.
Mustangs and a bunch of different cars, G bodies. And people would buy the Quadrelink system, which requires brackets to be welded onto the rear axle
Okay.
to be able to bolt the whole thing into the car. Well, I think one of the motivations for getting involved with the Gear Effects deal is to be able to supply those housings pre-welded now.
Oh, okay.
They can do all that in-house, and they can just keep checking the boxes. So what kind of differential do you want? What kind of gear ratio? And then they can make the brackets for whatever brake system you want, and go from there. So DSE they're very smart the way they make stuff. They make great products. We've used many of them, and part of the deal with being a manufacturer is a good company handles things well when they don't go right.
Correct.
Or when something happens. And DSE did a great job there too. I mean, we had a few issues with some strange parts over the years, stop bushings in a rack and pinion system, and they were quick to get us new parts for that, and they actually changed the design and
Oh, right on.
did what they could to make sure it doesn't happen anymore. So being responsive that way is part of that, is being a smaller business to be able to be responsive.
Sure, pivot a little bit quicker. Yeah, it's easy to be a great company when everything is going great. It's
Right,
like you said,
yeah.
it's a true mark of a great company when things are not great.
Right. Exactly. And so Detroit Speed, they're down in Mooresville, North Carolina, in NASCAR country, and they didn't change their name to Mooresville Speed. They kept Detroit. But I believe Edelbrock is opening a facility in that neck of the woods also, to be closer
Is that right?
to NASCAR and to all those race shops down there, because there's just so much activity going on. And I think maybe 2 years ago, Hotchkiss Suspension opened up a place in Mooresville, in that area too.
Is that right? Oh, boy.
Yeah, so there's a lot to see, and a lot of contributors to what we do are in that area, because they want to advance their stuff. They want to deal with the people that know and race it and use it. So
Well, boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing.
that's right, man. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. Another interesting thing I heard the other day is the latest story, I should say, on the Apple car.
The Apple car.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that.
Well, I'm going to say for the past 10 years, Apple has been threatening to get into the car business.
Oh, wow.
And nobody really understood why, because it's not organic to Apple's existence,
Okay.
being a technology company, a computer and device
makes sense.
company. But the flip side is, I think, we're seeing the proliferation of the Apple CarPlay,
Right.
software and hardware that is installed in OE level cars and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they thought, maybe they wanted to do a car that was like a super version of the Apple CarPlay, that had all kinds of features that would be really conducive to people that like technology in cars.
Okay.
And that started to kind of unwind a little bit as they demonstrated they really wanted to do autonomous cars.
Oh, boy.
And then it's like, oh, okay, so a computer company getting into autonomous vehicles kind of makes sense. I think Google tried it. Microsoft is definitely involved. And I will say the Apple stuff doesn't crash very often, so that's a good thing.
Got him!
But they if you research that company at all, Apple does not make the iPhone. It's all subcontracted by, some manufacturers throughout the world. And,
Sure.
and the last thing I read is that, the whole thing isn't assembled in one place. Parts of it are made in one, and parts are made in another, so that they don't get the ideas don't get stolen and black marketed, and
Oh, I see.
you can't build your own iPhone because all the pieces come from different places. So where would they get a car, right? So who do you think they were talking to build the Apple car?
Tesla?
You would think, but that's not it, and I'm not sure why. I don't know if they're completely going electric, but Tesla is a high technology company, and,
Sure.
and to me, I think Tesla really is just doing what Tesla wants to do. I don't know that they want to take on a private label
I gotcha.
manufacturing strategy at this point. But they might, but it's not them. In this case, it was Kia.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. And Kia and Apple were in talks to build the Apple car until this past week.
Until this past week. Oh, boy.
Yes. So Kia came out with a statement. It was very blunt. It was, "We're not making the Apple car."
Oh, wow.
And that was it.
Case closed.
So, yeah. And I think Apple has warmed up to a couple different manufacturers, and it has cooled off over the years. Because I just don't know if they know what they want to do, is my guess.
Yeah, I think that could be part of it. And I think another part of it is Apple, I think, are a bunch of control freaks as far as what they allow people to do. And they are not big into the repair movement. They don't want people repairing their own phones. They say it's a breach of intellectual property, and they're making steps to prevent that. And my guess is they probably wanted too much control over the development of this car than Kia wanted to give, and that could be why talks broke down.
Very interesting. So I know that a lot of cottage industry has popped up around device repair. Mm-hmm. And I could only imagine that, Apple frowns upon that because they want you to take it back to their stores and
They want you to buy a new phone.
buy another one.
They
Yeah,
want.
right.
They don't want
Yeah.
to repair anything.
Yeah. Although they do repairs.
They do, but a lot of things they do say, well, we can't repair it. You need a new phone.
They're quick to say they can't repair
Exactly.
sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that bothers me because I'm huge into being able to repair all my stuff because in my mind I bought it. I should be allowed to fix it. And I'm not trying to sell the code to anybody, but if, like, say, the camera stops working, I should be able to buy a new part and open the phone up and replace it. But now what Apple is doing is they're serializing a lot of these internal components, so you can't just put a new one in. It has to be kind of remarried to the motherboard, otherwise it won't work. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Man.
Yeah, they're getting hardcore with that.
Well,
and they won't sell it to anybody either. You have to take it to Apple.
Yeah. Huh. I think we're seeing similar stuff in the car world. I know there was that whole big deal, and we covered it on a previous episode of the intellectual property of who owns the car.
Right.
If the code and the operating system is all leased to you, essentially, or whatever. But I know that a lot of things have to be paired to the car these days. Mm-hmm. If you buy a key, for example, it's got to be paired. If you replace like the radio and a lot of electronics, they got to be paired. Mm-hmm. And that's been for quite a while. On some cars, you have to pair the battery.
You're kidding me.
You cannot just replace a battery. Yeah, when you take the battery out and you put a new one in, there's a process you have to go through to make it work.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's kind of wild.
It is kind of wild. Oh my
and
goodness.
It doesn't make any sense at all outside of what you're saying.
Right.
Just to keep people from being able to change their own batteries.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's a conspiracy, man.
Yeah, they're out to get you. But I'm sure in the deep, dark crevices of YouTube, you will find the way to do it. And
yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's somebody may have built some sort of contraption that allows you to, pair things back together, kind of like almost like a tuner tablet that would, you know how you can interface with your OBD2 port. I'm sure somebody somewhere has something similar to that can be used to kind of reset things and pair parts together.
Hack it.
Hack it, exactly. I call that white hat hacking. It's for the
White
good.
hat hacking. Nice. Yeah, well, somebody's got to still be able to do this kind of stuff.
Exactly. The repair industry can't go away. It's too vital. It's too vital to the economy.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Another interesting piece of news that came out this, past week or so was the release of the 2021 Cadillac CT5-V Series Blackwing.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that's a mouthful.
Yeah, we talked about that a few episodes ago, didn't we?
Yeah, what we talked about was the 4.2-liter Blackwing twin turbocharged engine.
Right.
Which is just an awesome piece. It's all aluminum. It's overhead valve. It's 4 valves per cylinder. It's capable of 139 horsepower per liter.
Good heavens.
In production form, yeah. 560 horsepower, 660 foot-pounds, right out of the factory. And it was built essentially for the 2020 CT6-V, which was a slightly bigger platform than the CT5. But I think they only made about 800 cars with that engine, and then they canceled the whole program.
Ah, jeez.
So the CT6 is done, and the Blackwing V8, which was also known as the LTA, is over. They put like $16 to $20 million into developing an all-new clean sheet engine. They put it in 800 cars and canceled it.
They canceled it. What the heck?
Yeah, it's a crazy story. And so the CT5-V Blackwing that's coming out now has an LT-based engine. It's a supercharged 6.2,
okay,
what we'll call previous generation to that overhead valve, Blackwing. It's a push rod. It's basically like a ZL1 motor. 620 some horsepower, didn't have the same amount of torque, and it's, again, 2 liters bigger than this other one to get a similar power output. And I was trying to figure out what happened there, and essentially some of the management at Cadillac, one guy in particular who was running the company for a while, really wanted to go after the European high-end car market, it's all dominated by turbocharged overhead valve, small displacement, high-powered V8s. But the Cadillac's got an identity crisis with these cars. There's a CT4, a CT5, and then there was a CT6. Can you pick one up out of a lineup? Can you spot one on the street and know what it is? No.
Probably not, no.
So they haven't been marketing them. The names, in my opinion, aren't very distinctive. They just sound like part numbers, and the sales were not there. So when it came time to analyze the marketability of that Blackwing engine and the CT6, or putting that engine into the other platforms, they thought it was not profitable, so it went away.
Oh, man. Yikes.
Yes. And I immediately jumped on eBay to try to find one of the existing CT6V cars with that motor in it. And they're out there. They're all going for over $100,000.
Good heavens.
Which was, I think they retail for 109 or 112
yeah, I think you're right.
Or something. But they're holding that value rock steady because those who know what they are,
sure, are
holding on to them. But this CT5, that's the 2021 car with the 6.2 liter. The neatest thing about that one, it's got a lot of neat stuff. The technology's awesome. I think the design is pretty cool, but it's a manual shift.
Really, like a legit clutch manual shift?
Yep, it's a real stick shift.
Wow.
So my guess is that's going to be a 1 year only car too.
Probably. Oh, that's a unicorn car. My golly, that's cool.
Yeah, two in a row. So as we project into the future, and we think of 25 or 30 years from now, as we go through the elite car collections, I'm guessing there's going to be a 2020 CT6-V Blackwing parked next to a 2021 CT5-V Blackwing.
I sure
Both
hope so.
1 year only, high performance cars.
They'll probably be in the brothers collection.
Could be. Yeah. They don't really have a lot of Cadillacs, now that I think about it. Mm-hmm. But you never know. They might warm up to them.
Yeah, right on. Speaking of the brothers collection, we had a Muscle Car of the Week debut recently.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, that was good to see that come across my feed, man.
Well, I'm glad. Yeah, it was good to do it. That was a fun episode. The quickest cars from 1969 this time.
Right.
Yeah. Well, a couple of years ago, we did the quickest muscle cars of 1970, and that is one of our most popular videos ever, which only makes sense. It's a hot contested topic.
Exactly.
And just the same way when we released that one, we released this 1969 version, and all the data comes from published magazines of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, Motor Trend, Car Life, Hot Rod, Carcraft, Sports Car, all these magazines that existed back in the day, they tested these cars, and they printed the results, and there's a few databases out there that have all the results tabulated. So it wasn't too hard to put that together, but it's not 100% all inclusive.
Sure. Well, I saw some of the comments like no Superbird in there. Where's the GTOs and all that stuff.
Well, I think the ringer car was the A12 Roadrunner 446 pack, and it's a funny story because that car first it was kind of a mid-year edition, so I think it missed some of the other magazines as far as regular production promotion. But there's a very famous article that was done by Hot Rod where Ronnie Socks drove that car.
Is that right?
Yeah, and
Nice.
And Ronnie Socks is, the fastest shifter, definitely of the day. So he was able to knock down a low 13-second quarter mile and eventually high 12s in that thing.
Gee whiz.
And it was supposed to be a bone stock, showroom floor A12 Roadrunner. Well, the guy who wrote that story was none other than Ro McGonigal, who was my old boss at Hot Rod. He was the editor of Hot Rod magazine in the 90s, but he'd been with Carcraft and Hot Rod since the late 60s. And he tells a tale of how that car was a total ringer. It was definitely prepared
Oh, really?
for this purpose. Yeah. So it had a different timing curve in it. It had, carb tuning. It had hotter ignition. And it was not the same as what you would buy if you went to your local Chrysler Plymouth dealer. But the other part of that story is when they were doing that test, I think when they finished the test, I gotta double check, but during the time period, Roe had this car. He was driving it around, and he came out of the hotel one morning to find the intake and the carburetors got stolen.
Oh my God.
So, and it was a lift-off hood. It's a fiberglass hood with no hinges. So
Right.
somebody knew what it was and it lifted the hood off and stole the intake and the carburetors. And I think it was during the test time because they had to quickly get back with Chrysler and get another set and get them on the car to go run it.
Holy cow.
And he wrote that story in the 90s telling about the 1969 experience of working with Ronnie Socks and getting the carburetor stolen. And that very car is in the Brothers collection.
Is that right?
Yes. So
Well, that's pretty cool.
yeah, we did a Muscle Car of the Week episode on that one probably in the first 10. So it's red, and it's super cool.
Dig it, man.
Yeah.
There was a similar story about the when the Pontiac GTO debuted. They challenged Ferrari's GTO in a race, and they brought a not stock 64 GTO to the track. I believe it was a Bobcat Prep 421 that they put in that car.
Nice.
And, just blew the doors off of everything. But it was Coors. It was like, no, it's a 389 tri-power car.
Right.
So, yeah, I think Jim Wangers has told that story a few times.
I bet. Well, Pontiac was notorious for sending ringers out. And you're right, that Royal Bobcat Pontiac, those cars got prepped pretty heavily. And there was a lot of reports of disappointed consumers.
Really?
Who got their car. They bought their GTO, and they thought, I just saw this thing. Well, because I don't know if you're familiar with the Mystery Tiger.
Yeah.
So they'd take them to drag strips. They'd bring 2 of these cars, and some pro driver was in a tiger suit, and some lucky fan out of the crowd got in the other car, and you could have the opportunity to drag race against the Mystery Tiger in a brand new 1965 Pontiac. And if you won, you didn't get the car, but you got something. But those cars put down some serious numbers at the drag strip and in front of hundreds of people every weekend all over the country. Well, then a lot of these people were convinced, so they went and bought their own, and they couldn't get those same numbers.
Brilliant marketing tool.
It was a great marketing tool. You think about that today, come out and drag race our car.
Oh, yeah. That's not going to happen.
Against a guy in a tiger suit.
Yeah, right. Against a guy in a tiger suit.
It's awesome.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, but I liked seeing that, and also you've had a few "What Are You In For" videos that you shot out here recently.
Yeah.
Love seeing the resurgence of that.
Well, that was a video idea that happened. It was spawned right here on this very podcast.
Boom.
Yes, I think that was your idea.
I doubt it, but okay.
Well, the concept was kind of obvious of, hey, why don't you do a little update on cars you're working on in the shop, and it's like, absolutely. But the logistics of doing those is sometimes challenging because when we're doing a big project that we're shooting video on from start to finish, sometimes you don't want to let the cat out of the bag
right
until the car's done, and then you release the whole video series. But then I realized, that doesn't really matter. Let's just show them something.
Right. I mean, it's going to be a while until the car's done, and then you put the spot together, the feature together before you release it. So at that point, I mean, I don't think it's going to be, too soon after the "What Are You In For" segment anyway. Right.
Yeah. And those final feature videos, of course, feature the voiceover work of Mike Huball Clark.
Ba-boom.
Nice. Yeah. So the "What Are You In For" concept is just looking at, walking out in the shop and, some of the guys are working on this particular car. What's it here for? And we've done 3 of those so far. One on a 71 C10 Cheyenne. The second was on a 67 Camaro Pro Touring car we're building with an LSA and a T56 and ride tech suspension and a lot of fun parts. And then this past week we released one on the 72 LS3 Corvette we're working on.
It's a pretty car.
It is, yeah. It's a good-looking car. It's that Mulsanne blue with a white top.
Yeah, it's hard to go wrong with that, man.
Yeah, black interior. And as I said in the video, it's a non-original car. It was originally Cortez silver, and it had a 350 in it, but the original motor was long gone. So it made a great candidate for modifying.
Absolutely.
Guilt-free, which is always fun.
Sure is.
Yeah, and we got a lot of good feedback on that already. A couple people have reached out saying, hey, I want you to do that to mine, which is cool.
That is cool.
Yeah. So in addition to that one, we had previously aired the 4-part build series on doing a 69 LS conversion Corvette. and which is how we got the blue one. As a matter of fact, the customer saw that and said, "Hey, do one for me." And this past week, another C3 Corvette project has come up, but in a different direction. It's a small block car that we're actually doing a 427 big block in.
Oh, very cool. Yes.
So we're not all, LS all the time. We've got all kinds of different engines in the shop, and it's interesting. The 60, it's a 69 Corvette Roadster again, a red one. It looks very much like that car we did the LS3 swap on in the video series. But he likes big thumpy camshafts and big block power. So we're going to be dropping in it's called the ZZ427, and it's a Chevrolet crate engine. It's rated at 485 horsepower and a whole bunch of torque. But it's not as easy as it seems to do a big block in a C3 Corvette, because you would think, but nobody seems to manufacture a reproduction front drive system for that car.
Really?
Yes.
For a big block Corvette, they don't.
Right.
Small block all day long, though.
Well, I'm not 100% sure of that either. I think the accessory drives are a whole different animal, because if you're restoring a car, you need to have the original kind of stuff. So you can buy the pieces individually. You can find like the power steering bracket and air conditioning and whatever, but nobody's doing a correct kit of all of them.
Oh, I see. Okay. So you got to piecemeal everything.
Yes, and there are subtle differences. If it's a power brake car or a non-power brake car, power steering, non-power steering,
sure,
or what year, because they had smog equipment and the brackets changed, and all this stuff. So the second thought is, well, this car doesn't require an original style system. We just thought it'd be easier if we could just get it all in one box. So we're going to move on to an aftermarket, which is going to move it to a serpentine belt, which doesn't quite have the same look that he wants. He kind of wants a period look.
Yeah.
Serpentine system is going to be much better performance-wise.
Sure.
And we started calling a few of the manufacturers of these things saying, hey, does your system fit in a C3 Corvette with a big block? It should. Yeah. Because, these Corvettes are a totally different animal with the packaging.
Sure.
They got a tight nose.
It's snug.
Yeah. So where you get into trouble is the upper control arms. They're kind of high and forward in the car.
Right. Yeah, the engine is set back pretty far.
Yes. And you get in trouble with the power steering pump on one side or the AC compressor on the other. And then the height of the engine is lower in the car, so the crank pulley can get in the way of stuff. So my choice on that, we want to go with a Vintage Air front runner system. We've used a bunch of them. They're very reliable. They work really well. And it just so happens that we've got a 67 Camaro in the shop that we are installing one of those ZZ427s into right now. And it has the Vintage Air front runner system on it.
Perfect.
So I was talking with Trevor, the technician in the shop, and I said, is there any way you can, kind of eyeball that engine on the stand and and look at the blue Corvette that has the LS block in it right now, but see if that 427 is going to drop in with this accessory drive. And he's like, no, there's no way to look at this. Come on, the only way to do it is to put it in there and see if it fits, so it's like, well, so
worth an ask.
Yeah. And it's actually really worth the time to try it. Because the opposite scenario is you buy all this stuff and then you get it in-house, assemble it all, and then find out that it doesn't fit. And that's a bad thing, because then you've got parts, that are already taken apart and you can't return them and all the rest. So we're going to when the LS mock-up block comes out of the 72 Corvette, because it's going to go in and out a few times as we get the transmission figured out. And if that 427 is not yet installed in the Camaro, because we're waiting on one or two little parts to do that, and it's on the cherry picker, we're just going to roll it over to this one and lower it down and
Nice.
see where we're at, and hopefully just sign off on that one and be able to move forward with this other car that's coming in. So
I can dig it. That should be a fun project.
yeah, absolutely. It will be very cool. And there's, so many different projects going on in the shop right now that these What Are You In For videos are really going to show a lot of variety, which is pretty cool.
Good.
We're targeting doing one a week, and let's see, there's 5 weeks in a month, 4 weeks in a month.
Yep.
So we can, if we did them right now, we could probably do 5 months worth of these things.
Killer.
All on
Yeah,
different
man.
cars. And certainly, by that time things will rotate again, so it's amazing. Right now we've got 4 engines that are being rebuilt. We just got a 68 383 back from a machine shop for a 68 Coronet 500, which is just
Cool.
a super cool car. So
Yeah,
that's going to get
man.
one of these videos. We've got a 71 Cutlass convertible. It's green. And it just got all new suspension and a vintage air upgrade. And its original 350 is getting rebuilt, but with a roller cam and slightly increased compression and new stuff inside. So that'll be pretty neat. You don't see people building old 350s very much anymore.
Not too much, no. You're right.
And then
They'll usually go with a 455 in anything anymore.
yeah. So that's cool. And then we got another small block Chevy that's going into a Nova that is getting rebuilt at the moment. And then just yesterday, we pulled the 428 Cobra Jet out of the 68 GT500 KR.
Is that right? I thought that was all taken care of.
Well, we had hoped it was,
Oh,
but
boy.
it turns out it's not.
Oh, geez.
The car came in it looked beautiful, but it didn't run very well, and we did some diagnostics on it and found that it actually had decent compression, and it had a electronic ignition system on it that was failing, and that was the main reason why it didn't run very well.
Okay.
But in our investigative process, we found a flat cam lobe.
Oh, the
Yeah.
dreaded flat cam lobe.
Yes. So that one's not getting well, I guess it is. It's getting rebuilt because of the damage from the cam. So it's not like it's a worn out junk motor. It's more
Right.
of
I mean, but there's metal in it. I'm sure you have to take it
Yes.
apart and get all the oil galleys cleaned out to make sure there's nothing in there. So
right.
you got to tear it all down.
Yes. Unfortunately, we have to do that. But it's getting a roller cam too, so that won't happen again.
Nice. Nice.
And that's going to be a heck of a car. So that'll get a little video too. So lots of cool video stuff coming out.
Yeah. Great
And the,
variety. You're
what are
right.
you-
That's nice.
What are you in for stuff? Yeah, and we just brought in a 66 Fairlane. It's an R code clone, essentially, 427 car. It's
Okay.
all white bench seat,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's getting a bunch of stuff, so that'll be another one.
Oh, I bet that moves. Holy cow.
Yeah. Well, it's a damn cold out right now. We can't really find out, but
Yeah, brah. Snowy roads and all that nonsense.
yes, but hopefully soon.
Yeah. So what do you do about that? That brings up a good question. When a car is done and you need to put some miles on it, I mean, if the weather is just crappy, you just have to wait then, don't you?
We do, and we're lucky that you're further north than we are, so our weather is nowhere near as bad. And the typical rule of thumb is we communicate with the customer saying, we've got crappy weather, so
Sure.
we can't drive the car. If we really need to, we'll take it down to the dyno and we'll put it on the rollers, and we could drive it on the dyno
Okay.
and kind of break in the driveline side. But our typical strategy is if it has snowed, snow usually kind of melts off You know, we don't really have snow for months on the ground like, you know, you do in the Chicago area. So after it snows, we let it rain 3 or 4 times to kind of wash off the streets.
Sure.
And then when the streets are dry in the daylight, you know, we'll carefully drive the car at that point.
Okay.
You know, and then we'll wipe it down right away and make sure that nothing's, you know,
residue is there or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You just gotta work around it. That's all you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a bummer, but yeah. But it's good that you have a contingency in place.
Yes. Yeah. There's a strategy there to make that as minimally invasive as possible, I guess. So.
Yeah.
Well, we've covered quite a bit of random ground on this one.
Yeah, well.
Now that I think about it. So I guess if you're not a subscriber to our YouTube channel, you need to click on that because that's where you'll see those videos, by the way. So I invite you to do that.
Yes, please. Good stuff coming out of there.
Yeah. And at the same time, subscribe to this show wherever you're listening to it.
Yes,
and on that,
absolutely.
On that note, let's see if we can get answers to our trivia questions.
All right.
This show felt shorter to me, and it's because I took so darn long on the trivia question.
I think this is the longest time you've ever taken on one of my trivia questions.
Well, I was kind of...
Usually you know it right away, or you'll go through a short story, and you'll come up with the answer, and just, you know, playing cat and mouse with me, making me think you don't know it, and then boom, there you zero right in on it. But yeah,
this was different.
This took a minute, but that's all right. I'm gonna revisit my questions in the future. All right. So I asked you, Kevin, which auto manufacturer produces the most cars per day, and which one produces the least cars, and for the bonus, what those most and least numbers are. And for the most cars per day, you said it was Toyota, and you're absolutely right. It is Toyota. The cars per day, you were a little short with your 5,400 guess. They produce 13,000 vehicles per day.
Holy smoking Toyota.
Yeah, that's crazy. And the least number of cars produced per day by an auto manufacturer is, you guessed, Rolls-Royce. Unfortunately, that was not correct. The correct answer was Ferrari.
But, you know, all right.
You mentioned it, too, and I told you I'd include it. I told you specifically I'd give you Ferrari.
I guess you did say that, but in my mind, I immediately thought this was a boutique manufacturer. So
I consider them more of a quote-unquote major manufacturer just because of the length of time they've been around, their presence in auto racing, and, you know, they do produce street road vehicles, but yeah, that's why I went with that. But their number of vehicles per day, and you guessed Rolls-Royce was 28, but their number of vehicles produced per day for Ferrari is 14 cars per day.
And that is higher than I would expect.
Yep. Yeah, wow. Maybe they got more people putting those cars together by hand too.
Yeah, they're selling more Ferraris than I expected. And, you know, the VINs are specific to...
Yes, they are. Yes,
street cars versus race cars.
Yeah, one's odd, one's even.
Yeah. Huh. Very interesting.
Again, sorry for that dirtbag question.
That's all right. That's all right. You know, it's good to, you know, stretch the noodle out a little bit and see. I'm glad I wasn't, you know, I was kind of in the universe there. I wasn't like... You
were, yeah.
I got one of them.
You were dancing around it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I had asked you in 1963, Chrysler announced that they would be offering a new warranty on Imperial powertrain components, and this was going to be the first of its kind for the luxury class. And you thought about it for a second and came up with a 5-year, 50,000-mile warranty was the special thing.
That's what I came up with.
And that's correct.
What?
Yes.
Get out of town.
That's exactly right.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I was trying real hard not to bust a grin, but you nailed it.
Oh, wow. Holy cats.
Congratulations. That was wonderful.
I got to pinch myself. I can't believe that happened.
Well, that's why I was asking. I'm like, is this, are you sure? Did you know about this? And you're like, whatever. That's just it. So I that was a stab, but you hit it perfectly.
Oh, wow. That's what that's like. Holy cow. That's amazing.
Yeah. So Chrysler was really standing behind the Imperial line because it competed with Cadillac and Lincoln, and in those days, Lincoln engines were like every one of them was test run before it got installed in the car.
Really? Every one? Holy
yeah,
cow.
they checked, oil pressure and noise and vibration. I mean, they're well-built cars, and the Cadillacs of the 60s were really well-built cars. So Chrysler had to do something to get the Imperial line at that same level.
Their heads. I got
Yep.
you.
So they claimed they were continuing to make Imperial the most carefully built car in the industry. And they were giving it exclusive manufacturing attention. It has its own special shop for special coach work and other facilities set aside for the sole purpose of making it the best car possible, backed by a 550. So, pretty neat.
Right on.
Nice job.
Thank you. That's 2 for 2021 I've gotten right.
Yeah, and I haven't.
I think this is the first one you've missed.
No, I missed last time, too, didn't I?
Did you?
I think so.
Yardley, we're going to need a ruling, please.
We need our friend Yardley to catch up on the spreadsheet of wins and losses, the scorecard. Yeah.
He's been feeding me questions, too. So
Isn't that a conflict of interest? The guy that keeps the scorecard is feeding the questions?
I think it is. It absolutely is.
Yeah. All right. We'll let that slide. All righty. Well, this was fun. And I promise next time, even if I'll get there faster.
No worries. I'll do better at the question.
You can't. I mean, on your questions. I was going to say, on mine, you can't do any better. You're winning them.
I'll do better. Yeah.
All right. Well, you've enjoyed, hopefully, another full episode of the V8 Radio Podcast. And as I said before, if you like this kind of stuff, give us a positive rating on any of our subscription areas and subscribe, to whatever podcast streaming service you like to listen to. We'd appreciate it. And I think that's about all I've got right now, Mr. Q. You got anything else?
I have nothing else. I have no GTO updates as of yet.
Well, the suspense builds for next time.
It does.
Right on.
Big things coming.
Of course.
Maybe.
Always big things coming on the V8 Radio Podcast. And for Mike Huball Clark, I'm Kevin Ostie, reminding you to keep the needle in the red. Just don't lose your head.
Oh, Daddy-o, I love it.